Hey, cool. I guess that's how we do our go lives these days. Finally getting a little bit more official. Um, hey, everybody. Um, Not the best time to do a go live. That's okay. It's been a crazy day, and I'm okay with that. But I was journaling this morning, and a lot of you know that I've been, working on some personal development stuff, resetting some goals, really figuring out where I want to go, what I want to do, and how I want to get there. And it was interesting because I was with Connor in the car probably 2-3 weeks ago. He's like, "Dad, you gotta listen to this." And I'm like, "Okay." And he puts on like classic rock, like 1985, and I'm like, "That's my music." He goes, "Dude, this stuff was epic, Dad." And I'm like, "Oh, 1975 to 1995 for me was just like the best music." And then they kind of took over with the digitized stuff. And so I was like, and I normally listen to a good bit of that, but he was pulling out stuff that I hadn't listened to, in years. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh. And one of my favorite songs is Bryan Adams' Summer of '69, because that was what we did when we graduated from high school. And it just got me thinking about, David and Greg and Sean and Mike and Jason, all these people I hung out with. And, when you're in high school, it's like you've got it all figured out. You know the answers to everything, and you drive your parents crazy. Mine do too. So if that's you, give a thumbs up, because that's the reality that I live in. Anyways, and it just got me thinking about all the different things that were important to me then that became goals. And then I started to remember all these things that I wanted to do. And some of them I've done. Not all of them, but definitely some of them. And I want to do more. And I've been really setting a lot of goals lately and looking forward to, that next level. I've been really fortunate. Chiropractic, had a lot of successful businesses and whatnot. But, and I've really sustained a really decent place, I'm not going to lie. But then I started thinking that, I want more, and why do I want it? And then as I got through this, I started thinking okay, so chiropractic for me was a given. I mean, I it's almost like I didn't even have a choice. And I just was always going to be a chiropractor. Gary Welsman was like a surrogate dad for me, and I had asthma and allergies and was really a sick kid, and it was chiropractic that literally saved my life, if you will. And then as it moved on, I, started to play soccer, and I got into sports, and, as a chiropractor, I always enjoyed educating people. And so I went to school and I got all that stuff. And then we started doing lectures, and we started the whole Dr. Michael Explains YouTube channel, and it kind of took off. But what I got to thinking about was one of my best friends was Dave Jenkins, and the other was Greg Jackson, and we hung out and we did everything together. And I remember when David moved to, I want to say it was Bradford, New Hampshire. We had this house, and he had 16 acres, and I was like, wow. And we'd go play. There was water, and this one year we just fell in the ice broke, and we went in. I say it was his fault. He said it was my fault, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We both got wet. But it was 10, 15 acres, whatever. And I realized that my whole life, when I got into chiropractic, I was looking for a piece of land because of that event. And I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy cool. And then, I remember going to visit, Jeff Walsman his family had a lake house at Crescent Lake, and we used to go there. And then David, when he moved from Bradford, his parents moved in, I think, with his grandparents or some combination like that. And they had a house right there on the lake, and, we built decks and we did all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. I want to live on a lake too. And now I'm actually at a point where, I've got the 16 acres, we had it, and it's wow, this is a lot of work. And now we're looking to move to Lanier because I grew up water skiing and the water sports and doing all that stuff. And it's these early things shaped my life. And, sometimes life gets in the way, because it was I was going to have the lake house, I was going to be a chiropractor, travel the world, have a house in the mountains, have a house in the city. And, kids tend to detour you, especially for me, because my dad died when I was 7, and his best friend stepped in as, the Uncle Lou, and then my mom married him like 10 years later and he became Poppy. But spending time with my family has always been like absolutely paramount. I didn't want to be one of those dads that, my kids didn't see before school, and then when they got home from school, they didn't see me till, late at night. I was traveling and all that stuff. So I tapered some stuff back, and, and so you kind of like, oh, I don't need to be doing that now because I've got kids. And they started to become somewhat of an excuse. And then I was thinking about times that I was in the shop with my grandfather, and my grandfather was a craftsman carpenter up in New England. And, we just always in the shop, covered in sawdust. I mean, we call sawdust man glitter in this house. It's kind of funny. But, and so I did a lot of that stuff with Jackie. But then there was Connor, and then there was Skylar, Lexi and Skylar, and we had all that stuff. And so it's interesting that now it's been 10, 12 years, and Lexi's never been in a wood shop with me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love making tables. If you look at the table right here, Abby found this crazy table on Pinterest, and it was like 11 grand, and I'm like, that's ridiculous, I can make that. And she looked at me like, are you kidding me? I'm like, no, that'd be easy. And she's like, prove it. Here it is. And other than that, my kids don't even know that side of me, and I'm like, wow, that's tragic. And so wanting lake life and, all these different things that we used to do. And, I was the classic 16-year-old, 15-year-old with the red Lamborghini poster, and I had the Ferrari picture, and I'm going to have one of everyone. And then even in the martial arts, used to get all the karate magazines and the ninja magazines, and I'm going to do martial arts later on. And sure enough, I went on and I did a lot of formal training in martial arts and Aikibujutsu and Shinkendo, which is a Japanese martial art, and did really, really well. We used swords and all that stuff. And so I was looking, I'm like, wow, what are some things that I loved that I just kind of said that, we go at it like, these are my dreams and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get there because I'm 18 years old and I have it all figured out. And then you don't get the $400 million a year job, and you're like, wow, I got to get through school. I think I'm going to go grocery shopping. What flavor of ramen do I want? And you go through 8 years of college, and there's a lot of ramen, not going to lie. But, so you give up on these dreams, and, it's like life gets in the way, and then, so it's like, well, this is my job. This is how much money I make. So I better give up on all the other dreams instead of just make more money to make the dreams come true, and just realize that that job is a phase or a stage or whichever. And, when Skylar got sick, I had the chiropractic office and insurance was okay and had a couple other side hustles going, did some real estate. And then I realized, wow, I did real estate with Poppy because he owned a lot of property in Claremont where I grew up. And I'm like, golly, we really do. And then and then I was talking with Mom about it the other day, and she goes, oh, your Grandpa Donaldson owned all kinds of land. I'm like, oh, that's true. He had a whole bunch of section of the border up in Vermont during Prohibition because he was a bootlegger. Yeah, we come by it honestly. And anyways, and so I start looking at all these things, and I'm like, well, what do I have left unfinished? Well, I was 6 years old when I started helping my grandfather build airplanes. I'm like, he built Piper Cubs in his garage, and I'm like, I so want to have a pilot's license. I've always wanted a pilot's license. I just went through a bunch of my old journals, and then nearly every single journal has, get your pilot's license. And I still haven't done it. And I had no particular reason. Oh, well, I've got dance, or I've got soccer, or I've got baseball, or I've got... And I just put me on the background, and then you get through and you're going, wow, I'm 50 years old. I'm like halfway there. And yeah, I know I make it look really good, but it's true. And so I'm like, what are my other dreams? And I realized that my dreams didn't fit my budget. So, people say, well, what do you do? You're a doctor, you're a chiropractor, right? Not exactly. We don't have an office. We retired from traditional practice years ago, and so now we do a lot with the biofeedback, and we work with a lot of different doctors and a lot of different offices, but most of my income comes from online, and people that know me know that I've been heavily involved with Kangen and Enagic from what happened with Skylar, and then we started to help different teams develop affiliate academies, and we teach people how to do online branding, and it's a blast, but it's scalable. And because our income has gone up, I'm looking at all these old dreams going, wow, I can do that. I can help my kids have everything that I wanted and didn't have or couldn't have or for whatever, but I can also have all the things that I've let go of because I'm no longer afraid to dream, because my income is willing to match it and I can just work as hard as I want. And so I spent the week just like hammering stuff out, finding stuff that I wanted, and Ab and I were having a conversation, I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday night, and it's like, and then she posted something about, at what point did my children move from my reason to my excuse? And I was like, oh, babe, that's me. And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, what do you want to do? And I'm like, babe, what do you want to do? And so we started making all these crazy goal lists and stuff. And, we were looking at moving towards Lanier and going for dance schools and this, that, and the other. And I was on the phone with Jackie, and we just were like, because we really wanted a nice boat community that, has a dock, so that I don't have to take care of it. I can just like show up and ski. And Jackie was on the phone with one of her friends, and it was like all of a sudden she goes, oh, there's all kinds of dance. The schools up there are amazing. And we're like, I just did School Digger, and I've done the research, and they're not amazing. And she goes, yeah, those numbers are skewed because they have 2 tracks. You can actually start college courses your junior year. And I was like, you can get 2 full years of college that are in high school up there. I'm like, oh, snap. That's awesome. And I realized I really want to move like to the north part of the lake. And Abigail was like, absolutely. And then she, you say house, Abigail goes Zillow. She's a Zillow master. If you're looking for something, ask her. She can find whatever you want. And I'm like, snap, baby. Those are like your sister and your brother-in-law's house. And they're just gorgeous craftsman homes and whatever. And I'm like, that, we hadn't looked at it because it was quote unquote not in the budget. And then we realized that all we have to do is work harder for our dreams. And we got really, really excited about it. And then we started to work on all this other stuff, and the music and the studio and this, that, and the other. And Ab wants to do a cooking show, and Skylar's all like, I want to do Petite Eats. And I'm like, what's Petite Eats? And she's like, it's like me cooking, because she's like real tiny. And she's got the little stool, cutest thing you've ever seen. And then Lexi comes over and she's like, oh, Dad, I want to do the online thing too. And here's all my painting. And it's like, seriously, like that's all of her paintings all over the wall. It's insane. She's phenomenal. And so I was like, okay, cool. So the kids are jumping on board with it. And I talked about, the wood shop and having a house for all that stuff. And they're like, all on board. And as I got more in tune with my own dreams, it's like I gave my kids permission to have their own dreams. And I want to tell you, whatever dream you've forgotten, remember it. When we go to continuing ed and stuff as doctors, a lot of times they talk about depression and frustration and, the helplines and suicide lines and all these things. And people get really, really depressed. And there is absolutely 100%, no question, depression is a real issue. But when we're in continuing ed, they said, make sure that they're depressed, they're not uninspired, and their life isn't worth living. And I was like, well, are you saying that depression's not real? No, it's a very real thing. Brain chemistry goes off, dopamine, L-dopa, all that stuff. And it's like, but a lot of times people are just unmotivated. And, for a little while there, Ab and I were very, very, healing from the PTSD of a child in the hospital and stuff and things like that. And we're like, are we depressed or are we just unmotivated? And we were really uninspired because, man, we go on vacation and Ab's like, it's 5:30, it's time to go walk on the beach. And I'm like, babe, it's 5:30. She goes, don't be like that. And you know, if your life isn't exciting, change it. You have that choice, you have that ability. And so we're really working on, kind of like Doctors Michael and Abby, and talking about the journey that we went through because our daughter was in the hospital and all that stuff. And, you know, the things that we put aside and forgot who we were. And, you know, just working with a lot of the moms that we work with that are kind of, I don't want to use the term trapped at home. They chose to stay at home, but now they feel trapped. And one of the first things that we ask them is like, well, what do you like to do? And they kind of go, I like to take my kids to dance so I can sit in the car by myself. That's not fun. I like to clean my house. Okay, yeah, but like, do you want a cleaning business, or do you just like not like having a mess and your kids destroying it? And they're like, I actually like to cook, or I like to go for walks. Ab came back and was like, I like to travel, I like to explore, I like to adventure and find new stuff. And I'm like, yeah, we used to do that all the time. And she's like, let's get our scuba diving thing. And I'm like, scuba diving, that was another big one. And we're like, oh my gosh, yes, we went swimming in Florida and it was incredible. So I would just say, if you get a chance, sit down, have a cup of coffee, think about what you want out of life, not what you're settling for. If you're settling for, you can be so much more. And what we need to do is just talk. I mean, if you come up, list your dream that you're either living or you wish you'd lived. Abby wants to do more music. She is, yeah, my wife is freaking amazing. So Dr. Abby is concert pianist type, classic pianist, self-taught, plays by ear. She's a chef. She was cooking for like 150 people by the time she was 10, 15 years old. Very adventurous, athletic, the whole bit. And I'm like, wow. And so it's incredible. And we're just putting together these lives. And we're like, she's like, do you realize that there's a Grand Canyon here in Georgia? And I'm like, yeah, it's like Providence. She says, I'm going. And I'm like, okay, babe, whatever. Well, she's just this week drove the kids to Pensacola and was like, oh my gosh, it's on the way. So she stopped and took pictures. Go check out her place. It's awesome. But in the comments below, I'm sure people will be watching this later. They always kind of sort through. But tell me what your dream is. Something that you forgot. Summer of '69, had that band. Got a first real 6-string. I've wanted to play the guitar my whole life. I bought a guitar and I was getting ready to do it and my son took it. And he's doing it. And I'm like, well, why am I not doing it with him? I don't have time because I don't make time. And my wife would lose her mind if I could play the guitar. I can't really sing at all, except for my kids. If I start to sing, my kids just instantly like, oh, they calm down. It's like, oh my God, maybe if I fake sleeping, he'll shut up. But my wife would love it if I played the guitar. When was the last time you did something new just for you? Go do it. Figure out what it is, whether it's to swing by Providence Canyon and see the mini Grand Canyon. Go diving in the Blue Springs. If you do, go to Florida. There's one in Orange City? Yeah, Orange City, just north of Orlando. It's freaking amazing. Like, you're in the water and you can see for like ever. I mean, 50, 60 feet. It's awesome. So that was just kind of where I was going, is if you can remember what your dream is and where you're going, it makes life a lot more exciting than the everyday toil. And one of my mentors in the online business, he says, like, you know what? He said, it's a shame to work 8 hours for somebody else in their dreams and not come home and spend any time working on yours. And I'm like, I don't even have to go anywhere. And he's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, you know, wait a minute, why when the kids are gone? Why not with the kids? And I'm like, well, there's the shop. And I'm like, you grew up in a shop. And I'm like, well, what if they don't like it? Who cares? You do. If you like it, they'll join you. And now Lexi's like, got a whole Pinterest section. She's like, Dad, we can make all this furniture and we can do all these chairs and I can paint. And she's like, I started painting furniture, Dad. It's great. And she's like, incredible stuff. I'll post some pictures sometimes. It's like, holy cow. And then Skylar's like, Dad, I want to make some really special cutting boards for Petite Eats. And I'm like, okay, that'd be a blast. And the kids, all of a sudden, they wanted to make their beds. And so we started having, hey, everybody, ooh, we got some people, more people jumping on. Thanks for saying hey. And so just turn your brain off on all the reasons why you can't do something and turn your mind on, like, be mindful, be present with what you're doing and why you want to do it. A lot of times people are like, oh, I can't do this, and their brain's all over the place and chattering, and they're occupying time versus focused on their dream and where they're going. And I did not realize how bad I was. I was literally like, and I have the most amazing family, but it's busy. And then with the ranch, and we got to cut the grass, and by the time you finish cutting, you got to cut it again. And then this part needs to be done, and I was like, and I was just getting through days. I wasn't living a life that I wanted. And this was I have the perfect life. I had created it. I wanted all the land. I wanted the water. I wanted the barn. I wanted this. And I have it. Now I'm like, that's it. No, I want to play the guitar. I want to get a pilot's license. I want to live on the lake. I want to have the boat. Do I have to level up my game to go get those things? You bet I do, because I don't want the cheap versions. But you can. You know, I have friends in every company online there is. You name it, I've got friends with it. I do mostly with Enagic because, I mean, my story is with Skylar. But really, when we are dealing with our clients and our patients and the biofeedback, we have a whole system that is basically set up like, okay, I don't have time to go research it. What do I need to be healthy? Send it to me. So we're like, cool. Dude, oh, Gold Coast. David, wow, what time is it there? Oh, it's early. Oh, man, I got to get back to Australia. Okay, perfect example. Abby and I last year wrote down we want to go to Australia. It was on our goals list. It's been on the bucket list for a while, and we were trying to figure it out, how we're going to get there. And then ended up pregnant. We're like, yeah, well, we probably won't travel this year. You know, you go for it, and you don't realize that your thoughts are creating things. And when I decided to really dive into the online industry, I bunch of friends that I'd helped start some stuff and did some video recording for on the water and the science were like, hey, you got to come to LA. You got to check us out. It's gone crazy. Nope, Las Vegas. Sorry. And so I'm like, cool, I'll go to Las Vegas. We'll check it out. And I met some great people. And the next thing you know, yeah, come back, please. It's Friday morning. No, it's Thursday night. You're ahead of me. You've already lived today. That's crazy. Yeah, I saw that Clint and Christy were at the coffee shop, and Ken's like, why has Christy lost her mind and throwing a party? If Ab and I were at the coffee shop with them in Gold Coast, we'd be losing our minds with Christy. But, so anyways, long story short, all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, some friends that we met in Las Vegas were like, we want you to come teach in Australia. And I'm like, that sounds pretty awesome. And, hey, Vanessa. And the next thing you know, I was like, babe, we could possibly go, you know. I was like, sure, send me a link and I'll teach online. And they're like, no, we want you to come. And I'm like, dude, you wait. If you buy Abby and I a ticket, I will waive my fees and we will be there. And they're like, okay, call you right back. Okay, we need your information for the tickets. And I'm looking at Ab going, babe, we're going to Australia. Huge dream. But we put it in the goals. We tried to work towards it. And next thing you know, there it is. And all these different things have taken over because we are daring to dream again. Most people's dream is to get through the week or get through the weekend, deal with the kids' sports, get this one to school, get them out of college, and get them off to school, and then they're going to do X, Y, Z. You know, do it with them. And they're like, well, it's expensive. And I'm like, no, I want to go on the cruise with my kids. I want to go on some vacations with just my wife. But we have to be careful because we already have 5 kids. We're going to get that fixed. Not that everybody needed to know that, but it was pretty assumed. But, you know, I want to take my kids those things. And Ab's like, we should rent an RV and literally travel all over the United States next summer. I'm like, count me in. I want to go to Lake Tahoe, the Grand Canyon, Yosemite. And Ab's like, I want to go to the Metropolitan Opera. And I'm like, cool, we got to balance. And so we're really looking, and she started to look into people that do location-free living. And hi, Peggy. and location-free living. And I'm like, that's a pipe dream. And she looked at me and goes, excuse me? You told me to start dreaming. And I was like, oh shit, I did it. I'm like, shit, I totally did that. There's no reason that we can't do it. And so she started looking and I started looking and I'm like, we went on vacation this summer, and when we were done, we were like, I looked at her and I said, do you realize that we don't actually have to go home right now? We could go somewhere else. And she's like, okay. But we came home. But it was interesting to have that opportunity, and we realized, no, we really could travel with the kids and have a blast doing it. And I was like, wow, we don't have to figure out a way to handle it. We just take them with us. And then she's like, well, the little one's a little challenging, but we've got the older ones. Well, why don't we just take a nanny? And we're like, well, we'd have to find one. And then all of a sudden they start showing up and you're like, okay, this is really, really cool. But one of the coaches that Abby was listening to, total bomb. Her name is Katrina. I can't remember her last name. But on her side is tattooed, you will move faster in the direction of your dreams than anywhere else. And she's like, if it's really what you want inside, it'll go, and it'll go really, really quick. And I'm like, yeah, but what if it doesn't work? And Ab goes, yeah, see, that's the thinking that's got you stuck. She's like, what if it does work? I'm like, okay. So we started looking at it. Boom, we get a contract on the house. Boom. A house that's way out of our price range, is way below market value. And they're like, that could work. And I'm like, but it's where I really want to be. And he goes, that's why it's working. So if your life isn't where you want it to be and it isn't what you want it to be, change it. Reading a great book, and it's called Happy Pocket Full of Money. It's actually right here. I've been reading a lot of books lately, and I haven't read in like a decade, which was sad. But what ended up happening was, you are today, if you look at your life and you're like, my life is fabulous, I'm excited, I want to do it. Great, you made good choices yesterday. If it's not, it's because you made poor choices yesterday. Your tomorrow is determined by what you do today and tonight. If you don't like where you're at, your life can be in a radically different place. You bought the book too? Yeah, I know. Matthew Jang mentioned it. So, okay, so in our affiliate marketing company, the Institute, they have a whole list of books. And I'm like, these people are doing what I want to do. Because, you've all seen the millennials, and they're like, oh, here I am in Thailand, and oh, here I am in Greece, and here I am. And I'm like, really? You don't have any kids? And they're like, people say that if you got kids, you can't go. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, they're like, yeah, we make enough money, we could ship your kids over here. And I'm like, you do? And I'm like, okay. So I joined the Affiliate Institute, and that's what we do. But their book reading, I don't care who you're with or what you're working on or what your product is or what your business is. If you start reading better books, you'll have better dreams. And, that Happy Pocket Full of Money says, you are today where you're at because of your thoughts, visions of yesterday. I'm like, and they said, if you don't actively engage your mind to cognitively focus on what you want tomorrow to look like, it's going to be like it was today. Or you're going to fall into somebody else's dream pattern, if you will, and what they're headed towards. And I got to thinking about that. And they're like, well, no, if you want to go to New York tomorrow, go buy a ticket. You'll be in New York. Well, I can't just go buy a ticket. No, actually you can. It's how bad do you want to be there? If that's your dream, go. One of my nieces, well, she's not really my niece. She's one of our best friend's daughters, but her name is Kaylee. She's freaking amazing. And she's like, I want to go dance and do Broadway in New York. And she has every bit the talent that's necessary. She's phenomenal. And she's like, well, I'm just going to go. And she did. And then she got there and she's like, I didn't really want to be in New York. I think I love Atlanta. But she went. And sometimes you have to go from one place to get to the next place to find out where you want to be. because it's either really where you want to be or it may not be where you want to go at all. But you have to start living that dream and finding out what the dream is, and you'll get really, really super excited about it. I'm not going to lie. Because I'm stoked about the lake. I'm stoked about helping more people. Ab and I are putting together a whole protocol where it's like, hey, if you're into health and wellness, we have an entire system. The whole spa is ready. We were like, well, how in the world would we do that? And a friend of mine goes, dude, look at the shit you got in your basement. I'd buy it. I'm like, but it's expensive. He goes, yeah, so? And he's like, well, what do you take for nutrition? What do you do for water? What do you do for supplements? What do you do for foot baths? What do you do? He goes, just make a list and then send me the bill. You know, that's what we do. We put home spas because people are interested in, living healthier, more exuberant, energetic lives. And we're like, oh, that's cool. And then we have people going, how do I do it? And we have a lot of friends that they have a luxury lifestyle and they're like, yeah, I don't really want to deal with your business. I don't want to deal with that stuff. Just send me the stuff that I need so that I can have as much energy as you do. And I'm like, here's the list. Check off what you want. And so if you want a healthy lifestyle, if you want to be excited, reach out. Let's talk about your dreams. I mean, I coach people all day long. That's what I do. They ask me what to do. What do I do for nutrition? What do I do for exercise? What do I do for my mindset? How do I get busy doing this? And it's like, there you go. Here's the tools. But you have to make the decision to go. If you're not happy where you're at, yes, some people just quit everything, drop, and then I'm going to be a movie star. It worked for people. For me, I could drop everything and move to LA and become a movie star and have this income that would just follow me whether I lived anywhere. I don't have to go anywhere for my job. And that's incredibly freeing, but I know what I want. And I know where I'm headed, and I have a plan to get there. And where you're at doesn't mean that's where you have to stay. If you're not happy, don't stay there. Do more, become more. Balaj is one of my dear friends, and he has a statement. He goes, dream bigger, dream faster. It's not big enough. And then I had another friend, and we were talking. He goes, so you did some online stuff, and you did really, really well. Yeah. And he asked me, he goes, so what's the most you've ever made in a year? I told him, and he goes, cool. Why don't you do that in a month? And I'm like, you know how hard that is? He goes, it's called scalability. And I'm like, yeah, you don't. And then I realized he was making as much in a month as I made in a year. And I was like, okay, I need to kind of listen to you. And you know what? There's a lot of people that need our help. You have a story. I have a story. If you look at this is on Dr. Michael Explains. If you look at my caption up at the top here, it says, what happened to you is your story. Some are good, some are bad. We've all got great stories and bad stories, but what you learned from it is your lesson. And the reason you went through it is to learn the lesson that you can now teach people. Sharing that lesson with people is your mission. How you feel about it is your passion. How it grows is based on your enthusiasm. I haven't grown enough because I wasn't enthusiastic, because I thought my story was about me. And it's not. There have been people that, golly, I don't even want to talk about, whether there's rape, there's children dying, there's Skylar was in the hospital, and it's like, that was horrific. But I know people whose kids died. Skylar's like, I'm going to dance now, Dad. I want to be a chef. And I'm like, yeah, there's people that have it a lot worse. But there's people that need to hear your story where they're at. Share it with them. And what you'll find is you're going to find people that think like you think, and you can share dreams and visions and go forward. So again, I'm going to sign off here. Down below, if you listen to this in the replay, click replay, but tell me what your dream is. Or tell me what you always wanted to do and you haven't done yet. Find a way to go do it. Make it happen. You will be so freaking excited, it'll blow your mind. I promise you that. I haven't been this excited in a long time. So again, figure out what your dream is and go live it. It's that simple. Have a great one.